We're trying to go live.
Computers, they know how much I love them.
Yeah, it looks like, because the StreamYard, we had it connected to to Facebook, whatever. Facebook has disconnected the connection. So, yeah, we'll deal with that in a moment.
No rush. I got nowhere to be. My kids are at summer camp, so I am just my work from home.
There we go. All right. Welcome to Hello Chaos, a weekly podcast exploring the messy and chaotic lives of founders, entrepreneurs, and innovators. Hello Chaos is one of the many resources brought to you by Orange Whip. That's Orange Whip, WIP for work in progress. Orange Whip is a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities through hyper-local online platforms designed to inform, inspire, and create connections to help founders along their journey. Orange Whip is part storyteller, part how-to guide and navigator. We are a content hub and megaphone for founders telling real, raw, and honest stories, and why the mantra is where aha meets oh shit. My name is Jennifer Sutton. My friends and family call me JJ. I am the founder of Orange Whip and your podcast host. We do record live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and then publish on all podcast platforms on the following Sunday. This episode is sponsored by the Upstate, South Carolina LGBT Chamber. As the first and only LGBT plus chamber of commerce in the state of South Carolina, the Upstate LGBT Chamber are LGBT plus professionals and allies who understand that diversity, equality, and economic empowerment are vital for any healthy community. From creating connections and professional development opportunities to providing resources and advocacy, the Upstate LGBT plus Chamber is here to support you and a more inclusive and diverse Upstate business community. For more information, go to their website at upstatelgbt.org. On our podcast today, we welcome Chris Merritt, founder, advisor, managing partner, entrepreneur of several endeavors. Welcome, Chris, to our 56th podcast.
Wow, 56. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
Happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I was just saying that, we catch up with each other every once in a while at events. But I'm excited to hear everything that you're doing. I was kind of looking you up going, man, you still have your fingers in so many things.
Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment, man.
You are. So just start out and telling us, where are you with all your founder and entrepreneur journey? What are you doing?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I wish I knew. My wife has no idea anymore, and I really don't know. I find myself in a unique situation where a lot of the things I work on are things I do because I philosophically care or am convicted, and they're not necessarily jobs per se, and they're not necessarily financially lucrative. So I first and foremost, one of the two owners of Atlas Local. We used to be Co-work Greenville. We've been around for a very, very, very long time. That's a fun, wild story. Maybe we can get into it at some point. But
I hope
we've been
so.
operating. Yeah, we've been operating since I think legally 2009, but actually 2008 or something. There was a while there where our landlord didn't really know what we were.
Because you and I met originally in 2013, 2014, when I started Brightco, the marketing agency, the co-work space that was Railside.
Yeah,
Wasn't that what it was called?
Yeah, so we were co-work Railside there for a while. That was even one of the many iterations of our weird little community. Um,
I
you know,
loved it.
yeah,
I mean, I met so many great people that I still collaborate and work with today in the creative space. So it was, I thought it was fantastic, the
yeah,
connections and the way
yeah.
that you
It's
guys had everything formed and,
Yeah,
um,
it's pretty fun. So the co-working space, we rebranded to Atlas Local at some point, primarily because having the name co-work became quite difficult when other people started opening co-working spaces.
yeah,
So we went through a fun branding exercise with some of our team internally and just kind of figured out a new way to sort of reimagine what we do and how we talk about ourselves. And then on top of that, yeah, I primarily like the main thing I do, the thing that I do that makes me money and keeps me from going homeless and supporting the cute little kids, is I run a digital agency. It's called Faculty. It's faculty.com, and we do client work. We work
hmm,
for startups and businesses to either augment existing teams or to build MVPs. Everything from like custom software and apps to brand work, marketing, etc. Um, yeah, and we're sort of like grumpy old people of the internet. We've all been working together for a long time, and we like doing good
and
work. An entire section of our website is dedicated to web standards and things like that. So
yeah. So I'm curious of when you said, you guys had to rebrand from co-work when I think the co-work trend kind of took off. Why did you guys feel like you needed to move away from that term, that word?
yeah, it's a great question. When we opened originally, the co-working space was quite like our co-working space was quite literally a co-op. The earliest of days,
The
for simple math, the idea was if the bills are $1,000 and there are 10 of us, each of us pays $100. We're equal. Philosophically, that made a whole lot of sense. Quite quickly, learned about how businesses work,
Yep.
how taxation works, what happens when things break, all these sort of things. Um, but even though we sort of had to grow up and put on our adult pants and sort of learn how to run a business of some sort, we still, as much as possible, really wanted to keep that co-op feel.
Yeah.
And as other co-working spaces opened, they became commodity centers, right? It's you pay money to be here. Oh,
It was
you
a
want
real
it?
estate play,
It's a
right?
real estate play.
Yeah.
It's a nothing against those folks. I mean, well, I mean a little bit against those folks. It's not my jam, but it's a we are the co-working became a commodity. Like all of a sudden, my mother-in-law knew what it was because of the WeWork documentary and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not us. We're not going to charge you because you were in the conference room too long or you had too many beers
Mm,
on Friday. So we actually wanted to distance ourselves from that word co-work a tiny bit because it comes with a little bit of baggage. Me and my partner Matt had a long conversation about that this morning, where it's like COVID almost killed us. Then it increased our demand out the wazoo,
I was
and
wondering, like, how did you guys shift? What was the reaction to that?
yeah, so again, because we're a community and we're not trying to prioritize squeezing money out of it, we immediately were like, hey, if you're a member of ours and you're having financial hardships, reach out. Um, we gave everyone drastically reduced rent. I forget the number. I think it was like half off for like 90 days. And then it was like reach out if you need more than that. Because we're primarily trying to keep the community together.
Yeah.
But eventually the world sort of came back around, and people either got it or survived it, or got vaccinated or whatever. But so the world kind of went on, and then our demand went quite high for new members. But it was interesting because it became an entirely new demographic of human. It was no longer a bunch of tattooed web designers and marketers who were drinking at 3 o'clock on a podcast. It was
Right.
lawyers and CPAs and folks that have what I call real jobs. So like once again, we find ourselves in a situation where we're like, well, how do we stay true to ourselves, convey who we are, be open and accepting, but also let folks when they show up, this is not a WeWork.
Right.
There's not going to be someone at the front desk waiting to give you an Evian and take your jacket. Um, we all as members take turns taking out the trash. So like
Right.
if that's not what you're in for, then like that's fine. Just,
Yeah,
you know,
there's
go down,
others.
there's
Go
other
down to the
places.
street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, they're my pals. I'll give you Joe Irwin's phone number. Go to Endeavor. You know, like that
Right.
kind of.
So you guys still establish it more of like a co-op mentality.
Yeah, I tell folks when we're giving tours and we're trying to explain people how we operate, I say that, you know, though we have to be a business because of the scale that we are at, you know, we obviously have to save money. You know, the amount of things that we replace, like couches and things, just because of how much traffic and space we get.
Right.
So we have around 100 members now. So you think about that plus visitors, contractors, um, wear and tear. We just run stuff out, you know. But yeah, we still try our best to operate as if we are a co-op. And when prioritizing the community over like making the intelligent financial decision, when those are the two things on the scale,
Yeah.
like 9 times out of 10, I just have a beer and I'm like, I don't know, it'll work out. We'll just do the thing that makes sense for humans. The money will maybe
The
work
money will
out.
come. Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. So far, you know, it's 16, 17 years later, we're still not bankrupt. So,
Well, like you said, if you stay true to what your vision and your culture is, then people will come. It will pay off. And you guys are still just one location, or have you guys kind of franchise like the WeWork?
so man, another great question. At the moment, we are still one campus. Oh man, Matt will love this. We have been working. Matt's my business partner. We've been working pretty aggressively to open a second campus, and to do it thoughtfully. We want to be careful about becoming, you know, a true franchise or, you know, selling out to our corporate overlords or anything like that. But we just logistically need it. Our space
Yeah.
has been full and operates at capacity at almost any time. Just this morning, my buddy Jeremy was texting me, who worked out of our space for like a decade, and then, you know, had a baby and wanted to work from home for a while. And he's like, I want to come back. And I'm like, well, the moment someone, you know,
Has
gets
taken your
fired or
spot.
moves or, you know, passes on, we'll let you know. But we just, you know, we're constrained by physical space. Which is a good problem to have, but we'd like to grow. We want to do so thoughtfully. If you're anywhere near Greenville, you know that Greenville has become a lot less affordable as of late. I'm a Greenville born and raised native, and while I love that Greenville has progressed, I'm becoming that.
Or you became that person. Stop growing.
I mean,
and you live downtown, so your commute is not anything. So
yeah, my commute's not anything. Yeah, no, I balance. I balance being like radically self-aware and also like having a very terrible time at moderating the things that I think. My wife is constantly like, "You can think that, but you don't have to say it," and I don't have the ability to do that.
No filter.
Yeah, I'm all for Greenville growing. I want to make sure that Greenville grows intelligently and that Greenville supports all of the locals and small businesses that helped us get to where we are.
That's right.
And doesn't just
that we don't get forgotten.
Yeah, it doesn't just become nothing against these towns, but the next Charlotte or Charleston or whoever, where it's like, oh, cool, every restaurant in town, just we are the third location of their brand because they're in expansion mode.
Yep.
I'll be real sad if one day my friends who are local business owners and entrepreneurs and chefs and things can no longer be here because we built something too successful for ourselves.
Yep. And we've moved people away. And it's, you know, I talked to a founder who moved here from Austin, Texas. And, you know, she was very complimentary. She is wants to found her company, like to start her own idea here, because she was like, I could never have this in Austin. And she was like, Austin grew too fast and did not do the infrastructure right, did not take care of those. It's really hard to kind of be a small startup, you know, restaurant or creative in the creative space. She's like, it's just very, very difficult. But she had her eyes on Greenville to go, you guys look like you're doing things right. Getting the infrastructure done and caring for that smaller business. So let's hope that we stay that way.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I understand, like I'm very much a my role in all of my companies really becomes like managing partner, operational, human. I'm the person that like pays bills and deals with contracts. And so my mind is very logistical. I'm always thinking 5 to 10 years down the road, because it's like, okay, like cool, our office is in this building at the moment, and this is our business model. But like, here's inflation and the cost of goods and salaries and things. Like, how do we stay on the rails for the next 5 years so that I don't have to lay
Right.
people off and that kinds of shit.
Right. So you're the behind the scenes, the magician, the mathematician and the
Well,
magician.
it's funny that you say that. I feel like that. No one, I don't think I've found myself in a very phenomenal place in life where both of my business partners and my wife are all the like Enneagram humans that think like everything magically works out. And they're like optimists. They're like they're shit. What's Jason Sudeikis in the Apple show?
Ted Lasso.
They're all Ted Lassos, right? And I need those people, because I'm like that, grumpy guy who's like, yeah, but how the hell are we gonna do the thing?
How are we gonna pay for this? How are we gonna make this work? Yeah.
So they're always like, no, it always magically works out. And then I'm like, I have 14 spreadsheets that I've never shown you, but that's how that magically worked out.
Right.
But yeah.
What did you do before you got into starting your business? Like the first business that you started?
So ironically, I never set out to be an entrepreneur, to start anything, to found anything. I went to college with a biology degree because I got scholarships. I did well in science and I liked science. Had no idea what I was going to do with that. In my mind, like maybe I'd be a professor. That sounded kind of cool. It's like a real job, but not a real job. I either wanted to be like a professor. I really want to be a park ranger, but that was like, those guys don't make a lot of money. And I was like really on the park ranger train until, I met a woman who's now my wife, but it was like, oh, women, not all people like living in the woods in a shack. And so
driving a truck.
Yeah. So I quickly was like, well, okay, I can't do that. Biology. Okay, here's jobs and things. What really got me to sort of being entrepreneurial and going out on my own was being miserable in my day job.
Which was what? What were you doing?
I worked for, a big household name brand that everyone knows, one of the big folks here in Greenville. I mean, it was Michelin. I don't know. Y'all are gonna look on LinkedIn.
Is it like the tire company?
The tire folks. And nothing against the org. I will say, like, I was a big fan of Michelin, and one of the big reasons that I joined was, they're one of the first Fortune 500s to offer like same-sex benefits and things like that for folks. They were very progressive. They're French. They try not to work too hard. I found that I liked what I did. I didn't necessarily love the environment that I did it in, primarily that it lacked the flexibility and understanding to work from home, work on the road, do those sort of things, which again, at the time I'm 19, 20-year-old kid, 21, I don't know how old I was. Not 18, but whatever. I didn't know anything, but it was interesting because like my first question was like, hey, I work for a global company in supply chain logistics and such, and I work with people in, France and Mexico and Canada and China and this and wherever. But I have to be in this cubicle on Pelham Road, or like wearing khakis, or like the world goes to hell,
or a golf shirt. And
yeah. My last week there, I came home every day and I ceremonially burnt my dress clothes in the backyard and drank a whiskey. And my wife was like, you're a bozo. And then like immediately we got invited to a fancy dinner, and I had to drive back to the Gap and be like, I got to buy pants. But yeah, I liked what I did. I liked the skill set. I even liked my team. I was like, man, how do I do the work that I like to do, and live the life that I want to live?
Yeah.
Like, how do I not be constrained by, I have to be at the office from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then I can only go on vacation 2.5 weeks a year. I'm a radically candid human. The economics also play into it, where it's like, well, if I'm a contractor and I do this and I do that.
Right.
And so around that time, as I was sort of getting unhappy and hoping that I could move on or change, I was constantly pushing for flexibility. I was just like, hey, as long as I can do what I want to, as long as I can get my job done and be an adult and do it in a way that's not all consuming of my life, that's my goal. And I would hope that you hired me because you think I'm a competent human.
Right.
I'm not just going to work from home and do drugs all day or whatever you think is going to happen when I'm not in a cubicle. I around that time, this was probably the late 2000s, 2009, 10, whatever. These were the early days of the co-working space, and the original folks that sort of got that group together were pals of mine who were 5-10 years ahead of me in their adult and professional lives, who had kind of already had that aha moment of like, this isn't how I'm going to live my life.
Right.
And so I very quickly told my boss, and she was understanding, that I was going to work from home one day a week to save on commuting, because I was living in Anderson and driving all
Oh
the way
my
to
God. Yeah.
Greenville. But that one day a week, I still drove to Greenville and I worked out of the co-working space. And I was like, all right, what do you people do? Like, how do I get the hell out of this place? How do I
Right.
learn a skill set? And I just started volunteering. I was like, here's my skill set. If someone needs help on a project or an initiative or a thing, I just want to cut my teeth and learn more, because I don't want to be 55 and miserable and stuck in a
Right.
dead
You're
end
like, I like
job.
this lifestyle. How do I get
Yeah, but it was also
that?
like the only thing I had to offer as a young, ambitious human was just like, I'm not afraid of hard work. I like hard work. I like challenges. Here's my skill set. Like, put me in, coach.
Right. Right. It's so funny that you say that, of that whole adulting, because that was the business model when I started the marketing firm, Bright, in 2013. It was with that I'd been in a big corporate agency, and I was the director that would get yelled at, not yelled,
Yeah,
figured, but
reprimanded or
of going, you're you need to put more boundaries on the people that report to you, and you need to hold them to this and this and this and this. And I was like, the people that are, I get it if they are the roles that are, I call the 8 and skates, people that are just like the time clockers, the
yeah,
time watchers, where you're only going to get 40 hours from them. That's it. And I said, I get that you need to have those kind of management parameters around those roles or those people that just that's all you're ever going to get. But I was like, the majority of our team are the ones that are really trying to grow their career, their passion. They love what they're doing, and they aren't looking at the clock. They are, they're working 7 a.m. to get stuff done for clients, and sometimes they're here till midnight.
right.
They're just getting the job done. I said, why would I punish them by going, well, if you need to leave for 2 hours during the day, you need to make sure you take this 2 hour PTO. Why can't their PTO be just for vacation, and let them just live their life and be adults? And you guys need to have confidence in me as the manager to know that and distinguish the difference between those type of people on our team. And as I left that company, that was one of the whole cultures and the business model that I want. I'm like, I want to hire adults. I don't want to, I don't want to be that, like, I don't care where you work as long as you're getting the stuff done. Now, as we've evolved, we've realized there are some things that we do need to put some guardrails up, but it's still with that mindset of, if you love what you do, it's like you're not you're going to be more productive of just letting you have that freedom to
Yeah,
produce.
100%. And loving your work environment and what you do makes you more productive and means you work more. Like,
Right.
I have a lot of friends that are still in the like real job world, and they're like, oh man, I want to quit my job so I can only work 20 hours a week or whatever, because everyone
Yeah.
sees stuff on Instagram.
Right. And you're
uh,
like, I
and
work 90 hours
I'm
this
like, the
week.
best part about being an entrepreneur is I'm on the clock
All the
every
time.
moment. Like,
Right.
when I wake up at 3 a.m. because I can't sleep, it's because I finally realized, like, shit, we didn't do taxes. I forgot to run payroll. I didn't send that invoice.
Right.
And I'm not complaining about that per
It's
se,
just the
but it's the
lifestyle.
reality of it. Of
Right.
like, when my wife leaves work, to some extent, well, she's not a great example, but like, I have, because she also is like a partner in her business, but like,
Right.
I have friends that can put down work and actually go on vacation and close their phone and peace out. I can't really do that. I can put parameters on it, like you're talking about. I can say, hey team, I'm daily available for these 2
Right.
hours in the case of an emergency. But like, I work on small, scrappy teams
Yep.
that there's not a second one of me to step in usually. And my kind of rule of thumb is always, if you can bother me for 10 minutes and it unblocks you for hours of work, like do that. I'll be fine. I'm
That's
used
right.
to it. This dumb little
That's
thing rings all the time. I've made it the least appealing thing humanly possible by just, like turning off all the colors. And it's just like, I answer the email, I throw it in the drawer, I get rid of it when I can.
right. Oh, hold on, I'm going to ask our producer. I think we've got some comments that people have made. Oh, Kevin Weir says, "Hey, Chris, did you get
Oh,
tired of that
hey,
job?"
I
So
did.
shout out to Kevin Weir.
Nice.
Or yeah, did you get tired of that job? Um,
Yes,
and
I did.
was because the Michelin job, is that what he's talking about?
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah. A
yeah,
tire in French, tire is spelled with a Y, which
that's
to this day is way cooler in my mind.
that's right. Yeah, Kevin, we hear you,
Kevin,
bud.
I owe
We
you a beer at the next meetup. That was good.
Yep. And then hold on, we have a private chat or somebody that's asking. Oh, someone's just like, oh hey, oh that's you. That's you saying, oh hey.
Oh yeah, I said oh hey. I was making
Oh
sure the thing
hey.
worked.
Yeah.
Oh sweet. Oh, I can see public chat too. Oh, what
There you
up? Hey,
go. See?
nice. Look at this.
You
I
can
use
see it.
computers. I know how these things work. I don't know.
So yeah, if you have anybody else can hear us, have questions, shoot them over to Chris. Post them.
Do it.
Oh,
Love it.
there he goes. Yep.
Hey.
So now we're having a chat with Kevin. Kevin was on our podcast a few weeks ago, so he knows
Yeah,
the ropes.
when I was stalking the past episodes, I was like, okay, hold on, here's some people I know. It's like I think and then there's Eric Cooperman was on here a while back.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was talking
I,
about, his founder journey and all that. So, all right, now that we've got that screen up. So tell me about so your faculty. You've got the Atlas Co. You've got what other things do you have your fingers in, or is that the
great.
two primary ones?
I mean, those are the two primary with like this giant asterisk of like what I tend to do is take on a bunch of work, get excited about it, then get burnt out about it, then say, hey, I'm going on a sabbatical. And then I realize that's not realistic. And then I just keep chugging along.
Mm-hmm.
So Atlas also, or Atlo as we like to call it,
Yep.
also does Greenville Grok that we've done throughout the years. We've probably done like 8 or 9 of those here in Greenville over the last 15 years. We'd love to do another one of those quite soon. Holler at me if you are a sponsor or you want to speak or you have money, because and keep an eye on the socials. We'll be announcing some stuff soon. Matt's leading the charge on that, and Matt is he's excited about all of that. So I am too. I'm tired.
Yeah. You're like, somebody can pick up that ball.
Yeah. But other than those two things, those are the primary things. Like, faculty I care about and is my baby. And those are my close friends and teammates. And I've known most of those people for 10, 15, maybe 15 years. And then I joke that like Atlo is just sort of my conviction. And then everything else is like a little bit of a hobby. So I consult and advise on a few things. My great friend Tyler Senegal started a company called Sagacity a while back.
Yeah.
And he like had all these ideas, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a glutton for punishment. Let me advise. I'll help. You don't have to pay me any money." And they're killing it. They're great. The team is phenomenal, and I don't know. You'll have to have him on here and talk about stuff.
Yeah.
We're doing some cool stuff, onboarding some customers, growing our advisory team. That's probably all I'm allowed to say on this call.
All right. Well, we'll have him on later. So what was been so your journey, what was the biggest aha? Like, oh my gosh, what have I, that oh shit moment, and then the biggest aha moment.
Yeah, I think to me they were a little bit of the same in that there was this moment where I realized that I didn't have to segregate my life and say, here's what I do for work, here's what I do for fun, here's this aspect of my life. And I don't remember exactly where we were. I think we were at Brooklyn Beta, which is a web conference that used to be in Brooklyn. And I was having drinks with a guy named Ben Jordan, who was a business partner of mine for a while. Eric Dodds, who, was a friend and we've done some
Yeah.
work together. There was this moment where it was like, oh man, work never ends, or begins or ends. Life never begins and ends. Like, this whole idea of work-life balance is like kind of horseshit, and the idea that like you ever get to put either of them down. And for me, that was the big aha moment of like, moving forward, I'm not going to work on things that don't philosophically understand that. Like, I'm totally fine
Yeah.
if this podcast was 10 p.m. and I had agreed to be on it, totally fine with that. But it
Right.
means I'm going to goof off at 2 p.m. to hang out with my
Yeah.
kids to make up for that. And so when my big adult person job wouldn't let me do that because I had to, go do stuff, it was just like, okay, well, it's just not a good fit for me.
Right.
So my aha moment for that was kind of realizing that, and then saying, in my mind, I was like, how do I do what I want to do, which is to do good work, and to have fun at work and things like that, and just like find a way to not go homeless.
Right. Right. We call it like a lot of other founders I've talked to of they just kind of throw out the work-life balance doesn't exist. It's more of like you're just managing the chaos, and it's not, or it's not about.
It's unrealistic to ask of humans. I can't
Yep.
be like, all right, Kevin's in chat a minute ago, like, all right, Kevin, come to work, but only bring the work part of you,
Right.
like the life part of you doesn't exist. Your car didn't break down, it's not tax season, whatever. Like that we need you to just show up and only do work for this window of time is like a very interesting and archaic mindset of like, okay, the nuclear family can have one person at home, one person at work. We just don't live that world at all anymore. Like, you don't get the ability to stop caring about something. These damn little phones and computers buzz constantly. I have to work very aggressively to not be
To
paying
get
attention
bothered.
to it.
Yeah, I know. The vibrations.
Yeah. I made my phone boring as possible. It's just.
Okay, so Kevin's asking, what's your end game, Chris?
Oh man, Kevin, end game. I don't know about end game. I'm not a person that'll ever like retire or anything. I will say, like, my dream, like, left to my own devices, I would really like to find a way to, earlier when we were sort of like talking about making Greenville sustainable and accessible to Greenvillians and to starters and founders. If tomorrow I could wake up and do anything and money didn't matter, and whatever that question is, I want to try to grow. And obviously this is self beneficial. I'm not fully altruistic, but like we would love to grow the stuff that we do with Atlo. We'd love to keep office and creative space that is affordable and accessible and has lots of amenities, and grow that for smaller teams and entrepreneurs here in Greenville. But if we had the ability to, if the economics made sense, we would love to sort of grow that out and have programs. We'd love to do more to collaborate with organizations like Next or Startup Greenville, those sort of things. For us, Atlo's kind of like church. It's this thing you maybe go to and volunteer at, but like you do it because you care, not because it intrinsically is monetizing you or anything like that.
Right.
So,
do you guys still offer you guys used to do like weekly or monthly programs and where the members could talk? Do you guys still do that kind of programming?
So we still do 0 Day once a month. We try to do it the first Friday of every month, as long as that's not a holiday or something. And 0 Day is a community day where members can sign up and present or talk about pretty much anything you want within reason.
I think the world has changed and Gen X want different things than we baby boomers. It's probably for the better.
As an elder millennial, I think I agree. I just, it's interesting. It's again, as someone who has like really staunch, harsh opinions, my wife is constantly like, I speak in absolutes, which is funny because I do mean them, but I also realize that like everything is very nuanced.
Right.
And I don't at all hope or think that I can obtain, enlightenment. It's not like that I am going to learn it all. I just like the things that I know are to like be a good human, to treat others well, to do good work and like pay it forward. And so, those are sort of like the mantras that we're working on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the reason we do things like our community events, right? We find a way that our community can can promote and collaborate and do these things. Part of like, Kevin's question about the end game, we'd love to grow so that those types of things could be open to the public. We just logistically, again, like physical space. I can only
Right.
put so many butts in so many seats. And that kind of stuff is hard when commercial rent prices are in the mid 30s a square foot in Greenville right now. Like
Yeah.
for me to have a room to facilitate those things is like, all right, oof. Um, so yeah, I need to find a way to make a lot of money and make that happen.
So what's been what's been your biggest challenge?
Oh my gosh, hold on. My cat is like,
Oh,
he's like still so angry that I'm in here all by myself.
he's like, let me come in.
Yeah, when he came in a minute ago, he didn't even want anything to do with me. Man, the biggest challenges for me in my sort of like entrepreneurial life has been like what happens when things get bad. What happens when you and a business partner or a teammate or a client um, are at an impasse that's like irreconcilable, or like you're just not on the same pages. Those things happen.
Yep.
And so I work in client world where like lots of times we're on big long contracts with
Yep.
big messy orgs, and then it's like, oh shit, I realized I got business married back to the people that I left. Like, oh man. Not literally in this case, but like, I've there's been a few moments in my life where like me and a business partner have had to walk ways, our own ways, and that's been hard.
Yep.
Especially hard because
Were you guys friends before, or was it just more of like, hey, we know of each other, or we have mutual friends?
a little bit of both.
Okay.
One of my business partners, he kind of chose to bow out at one point. It was one of the folks that was early on with the co-working stuff, and he was just in a place in life where he was a little bit like myself at the moment, if I'm honest, was just doing a little too many things and needed to focus on the ones that mattered. His personal life was not in a phenomenal space, and so it was like, hey, I need to focus on this job that supports my family, and then I need to focus on my family. And like,
Right.
other than that, I don't really have time or the energy or the ability to show up and volunteer for these things. Which was a bummer because he was one of the originals and he's a close friend of mine. We've been close friends for a long time. That wasn't like hard because it was like
Yeah.
messy. It was hard because it's sad. It's kind of like your best friend moving out of town when you're in middle school
Yeah.
or something, where you're like, oh man, I see you. Selfishly, I love when people work at the co-working space because it means I have to put zero effort into seeing you often.
Right.
There's not this like, oh hey, do you want to meet up for coffee? It's like, I'm going to see you
Yeah.
daily.
And the energy that they bring.
Yeah, and it's just like it's the idea that like you really are just sort of like doing life together, and you're in this together when you spend 5 to 6 to 7 hours a day in the same office space.
Right.
And even if I don't get to interact with you much, it feels like I do. I feel like I know what's going on. I don't feel like
Right.
you're gone. But the moment that
So you missed your friend.
so I miss my
Missed your
friend.
buddy.
There was a lot of things going on in his life too that like I couldn't fix, I couldn't support, or not support. I couldn't do anything about. They're out of
Right.
my power. I'm a fixer. It drives my wife crazy. Like if right now you're like, oh, my car's broken, my immediate thought is like, well, how do we fix that? Like, does someone I tweet who has a car you can borrow, or like just the way that my mind operates, which sadly means I just carry on a lot of other people's shit sometimes.
Right.
I'm getting better about that. But yeah, that was probably the easier of the two. Also, at one point, when me and one of my close friends, who was a business partner, just decided we were sort of at an impasse. We wanted different things out of the world.
Wanted different things out of the business?
Yeah,
Or just
mostly out of the business. It was more of a balance of value and not value, like value you bring to the business and things like that. He was definitely more of a creative who designs and devs and does what my team likes to joke is like the real work, and I'm out doing the client work and the sales and the making sure that we're on time and like making sure that money comes in the door so that we can pay
right.
our bills. And there was just a moment where it was like we're running different trains of this business, and we're not really interacting, but we're the two partners. And I don't remember all the logistics. I just remember having a really shitty phone call that was like, I think I'm done. And what does that mean?
Mm.
like how like I'm done.
How do we exit?
Right.
Did you have all that like buttoned up in a partner agreement
Oh
or
no, how
no?
would no, of course not. Every lesson
Was
I've ever learned has been the hard way. Um, yeah, if you're gonna start a business, please reach out. I'll give you lawyers and accountants and all
That's
kinds of
right.
yeah,
Lawyers are your best friend.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
we've learned the hard way on several
yeah.
things. Yeah, yeah.
And I will say, like me and him have like I don't want to. Me and him we're never on like terrible pages. Thankfully, he doesn't live here, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna bump into you at the community tap and it'd be awkward. But we had a chat kind of during COVID where it was like, oh man, you know, just sort of an acknowledgement that we were both fighting for what we wanted and none of that was malicious. It just didn't work out.
Right.
I will say in his defense, if he's listening, I don't know why he would be from
You
Texas.
never know.
You never
You
know.
never know.
He did a really good job of what mattered to me was not necessarily impacting the rest of the teammates. Where it was like, cool, if you in this situation to continue forward need these things. Not to pat myself on the back, but I was like,
Yeah.
as a 50-50 partner, I'm willing to take less than 50 if we can make sure that like this money that's sticking in the org is going to support like really good dedicated
Keeping the
employees and
yeah.
not just go in Kevin's bank account. Because if I'm going to leave this money in the org to support employees and it's just going to get liquidated, and to give some rich partner or a partner a big bonus, I'm not. That's just again philosophically, it's not the way I run my life.
Right.
Come on,
Hi,
buddy.
kitty cat.
Yeah, this is Tabby. He's very sad that we're ignoring him.
Oh, it's like
And
we've
so he was
had.
great about that. We had made an agreement that was basically like, for easy math, let's say there's $100 in the bank account, like 50's yours, 50's mine. And I'm like,
And
well, I'll take 30 of my 50, or 25 of my 50 or whatever it was, but I want the other to guarantee X amount of payroll for Y amount of people. So it was like, you're not allowed to lay anyone off for 6 months.
right.
Like, or if you do, everyone you lay off gets 3 months severance, that sort of thing. Where it was like, we're not going to nuke the company because of new leadership or change.
Right.
Because I've been in that situation before, where it's like, okay, well, now you're in charge and you don't see the value in what I do. So
So if you had to redo things differently, like if you had to press rewind, what things would you tell yourself or what things would you do differently?
yeah, no, it's a phenomenal question. I have at this point I've gotten to where I have a really, really good accountant and a really good lawyer. And the conversations I constantly have with them is, let's try to make the decisions and have the conversations before we have to.
Yeah.
So like if right now you were like, hey, let's start this thing, let's go in it, be partners. My immediate conversations are like, awesome, like what excites you, what are your goals, but also like what are our rules and operations for this thing?
That's
Like
right.
how do we interact? What happens when things go wrong? What
That's right.
happens when we disagree? What happens when we don't have money? What happens when everything goes great?
Right.
I'm at least I know the type of human that is like very emotionally driven and emotionally impacted. And like when things are great, things are great. When things are terrible, things are terrible. I have to go ahead and know what avenues I think we want to take, or in the moment, it's a coin toss. Like I don't know if I'm going to get it right.
Yeah. Well, and you need someone there that is written like that they're there with you.
And those are the type of fun exercises that, like, in the moment, if you realize before you've even gone down this venture together that if things get bad, you have different ideas of how to
Yeah.
solve
And
that situation. It's like, well, cool. We either shouldn't do this or we should figure this out before we have to get to that situation.
that's right. And even just bringing up that was a kind of a lesson learned for me of just somebody wanted to partner with us, and I was like, great. Well, let's talk about what those rules are. I've invested in this. Where are you coming in, and all that. And it's funny how just having those kind of questions and those kind of up front, how people start backing away and going, oh, you mean we need to put stuff in writing? Oh,
yeah,
what? Whoa. I thought we could just, like just start working together. And it's like, we can, but there's things that we just need to operationally like have a discussion around.
Yeah.
But and that was an advice I got from another founder of just bring it up. Just say, let's talk about what those rules of engagement are.
Right.
And if they're really serious, you'll know it. And it's, and it was, that was kind of my first
Yeah, I think,
lesson down that path. And it like that person left immediately.
and yeah, I mean, I like to. I'm not a big fan of the like startup mentality of like fail fast or whatever, but I
Yeah.
definitely like to decide quickly whether or not we're going to do something.
Right.
In our business world, Matt is the idea guy for Atlo. He's constantly like, we should do this, we should do that. And I'm like, dude, go spin your wheels on ideas. It's nothing wrong with that. And he knows this. I'm like, but the moment it's real, when it's like actually concrete, there's true numbers, like a pro forma can be built, call me.
Right.
When it's just coffees and ideas and like warm hugs and high fives, I'm good for like 2 of those before I'm like, all right, guys, but like, are we just goofing off? Because like, if we're not making
Right.
money,
'Cause
I want to make money having fun, not working.
right. Right. Where do you think where have you struggled the most as either being a founder or a boss or partner? What's been the biggest struggle?
That's a good question.
Maybe you haven't struggled.
No, I'm not complaining, but I've definitely struggled. I think the thing about the entrepreneurial and like founder journey that is like phenomenal for me is like being in control of my own destiny. Like when we fail or when I fail, it's because I failed. It's not
Right.
because like someone else did something stupid that I couldn't control. I thankfully don't, like a lot of people talk about imposter syndrome and worrying about that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. That's never been a big deal for me, but what is that because I feel so truly connected to the things that I do is that and that I do them with conviction is that when we do fail or when we misstep, it's not just a moment of like, oh, the business made a bad decision. It's like, oh, I categorically made a bad decision that impacted these real humans.
Mm.
And why did I did that? What were my motivations? It's been interesting answering to no one in lots of areas of my life because it's really easy to see how power and money and things like that corrupt folks. There are lots of moments where
Yeah.
I could have made a lot more money and like legally the lawyers would have let it go and I'd have been in the correct, but it would have been the unethical thing to do. Like I wouldn't have been able to sleep with myself at night, not paying that contractor who didn't technically, check the P's
Right.
and the Q's. That's been not the hardest part, but it's been one of the more interesting moments. In the past, some of those moments were the moments where I was like, oh, I can't be in this situation anymore because this partner in the business or this contractor, whoever, someone in the situation like wants to do the thing that they can get away with.
Right.
And technically
You feel like you've been taken advantage of a bit. Maybe?
Well, it's a really great area. And like, my wife knows this, that like I hold myself to like a pretty high standard and I hold other folks to that too. But it's like, there have been lots of times in my life where I'm just like, no, I don't care if legally we can get away with this or legally it's in the contract. It's the wrong thing to do.
Right.
But then like, what happens when that's $100,000?
Right.
What happens when that's $1 million? I had a moment where we accidentally, it was totally my fault, did some math wrong on a very large contract and overcharged them by like $250,000.
Whoa.
But it was a big enough project where like that number slipped through. And so I realized it and I'm like, well, technically they signed it. 2 plus 2 is not $250,000, but someone somewhere signed that. And I'm just like, but man, that's a tough spot, right? It's like we've kind of already earmarked the money and stuff. Those have been the moments for me that are like, what matters more to me, this business and this money, or like who I am as a person? And not that I'm a phenomenal, like better than anyone human. I just, because I work in ecosystems and groups that I care about, I know that like I don't get to just take this money and dash or to do this thing and dash. And so thinking about that long term and keeping that horizon sort of in mind of like, well, but I want to be doing this in 10, 15, 20 years.
Yep.
A little bit of money right now doesn't solve that.
Yep.
Or is only like circumstantially helpful for a moment.
That's good.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps you up at night? Or because you are trying to do the right thing, you sleep better?
I don't sleep too well lately. My wife says I need one of those like sleep studies. No, I think really the only thing that sort of keeps me up at night, and I've gotten better about this, is just that building teams and building companies, you bring everyone, back to that whole work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
You bring all those other people and all of their lives into your ecosystem. I'm not just responsible for Chris and his wife and and his kids, or I say his, I'm talking to a third person now.
Yeah.
Me and my wife and my kids. It's like, oh, this person on my team and their family. Like when we
Right.
fail, I don't just fail my family, I fail his family.
That's right.
That's the kind of stuff that, like, I don't say it keeps me up at night, but definitely, like when COVID hit, our team made a very concerted effort where it was like, okay, whew, if you'd asked me in January of 2020, I would have said that 2020 was going to be the best year for our agency.
Yep.
Like our theoretical runway and billables and stuff was like, yay, real great. And that went to zero quite quickly.
Yep.
And in a world where your only income is trading human time for, for money,
That's right.
that's people sitting around idle is difficult. But our immediate
well, go ahead.
no, just like our immediate team decision was just sort of like, we should do whatever we need to do to keep this group of people as whole as possible.
Yep.
So we had to have some candid conversations. Chris Shiflett, our CEO at faculty, had chats with all of us where it was like, okay, again, I always say for easy math, because I can only do simple math. Like if your salary is $100, like how much do you need to actually live? Like what can we trim back, extend runway? Like how are the ways we can get flexible and creative, where we can just do as best by as many humans possible on the team, that sort of stuff. And so it was like, okay, if we can dial back salaries 20%, and that means we can stay open for another 3 months, like, is that a decision we as a team want to make? That sort of thing. And that's kind of the way we operated for a little while.
Did you guys have to lay off people eventually, or?
We never let anyone go. And we only paused or changed or augmented salaries for actually a tiny amount of time. Like as soon as the world didn't actually melt down at the beginning of 2020, teams like ours that are fully remote and talented actually were in like quite demand.
Right. Right.
The world was hard. I could no longer fly to London to see a client, or fly to Colorado to see my teammates. But our team mostly operates on video and does the things that we're doing right now anyway. So it wasn't a huge change in our lives other than
because we did the same. I mean, we've been remote from the start, with Bright, the marketing company, and but it was interesting. We did the same, something similar. We kind of told our team, we're not gonna lay anybody off. Everyone's gonna get paid. We're not gonna make any changes, but just know that everybody now has like 60, 70% capacity.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do with that capacity? How do we make the agency better? How do we gear up for when the economy comes through? And it was, and that journey was an eye opener for me of, as a founder, of making those sacrifices. Like we didn't take a salary. My husband and I, we didn't take a salary. Because we wanted to keep everybody on board, but that sentiment was not returned from the team.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Our team thankfully was very understanding and collaborative of that. There were folks on the team that weren't necessarily, like folks that were dual income that were like, hey, pause my pay for a while. Like, does it stink? Yeah, a little bit. It means that but you already, I can't go on vacation. I can't buy a car. I don't, this money, as long as my bills are paid, that's kind of all that matters until we realize or figure out when this is over or when the world's going to rebound. Thankfully for myself, I've also, me and my wife have tried always to be rather financially conservative humans. How agency world is. It's you can have a great quarter and then you can have a terrible 3 quarters. And so I'm just kind of all right, this is what it takes to, not be homeless.
Right.
And to and then it's like the things that are above that are real influx. If we have a good quarter or something, like that money's going in I'm boring. I'm an 85-year-old man inside. That money goes in an index fund. It's like, because I'm gonna need it, right? I'm going to
Right.
fuck up in the future and need that money. So like I can't spend it on, a nice car or
Yeah.
something like that. I
Well, we have an issue of like we have a philosophy in our household of we can't invest in anything that depreciates. It
okay, yeah,
so it's like cars, that's a tool. So that's it's to get us to point A, point B.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so yeah, that's those kind of that's called luxury items.
yeah. It's been a fun conversation in our house because I'm a little bit of a watch nerd, and if you do like a tiny amount of research,
Oh, those are
watches
heirloom items.
watches have been a phenomenal investment for a
Yeah.
while. And so here I am, like, I mean, wholeheartedly, the math is there, but I'm telling my wife, like, well, if I buy another watch, that's like better
But
than buying an index fund. And then she's like, yeah, but not if you wear it fly fishing and beat it up. And I'm
yeah,
like, I'm not gonna do
it's just for
that.
me to look
Yeah,
at.
just gonna. So that's been interesting. That was actually kind of a little bit of a COVID hobby of mine. Was kind of like
Buying and selling,
not necessarily like.
just collecting.
Well, it wasn't. It was more of a just like keeping an eye on it. It was like,
Uh,
whoa, like okay, what is this MSRP and how's it trending and all these kind of crazy things. Um, and it's weird. I really was only doing it because like right before COVID hit, I sent a watch in for service that had to go back to Switzerland, and it's the watch that like means the most to me. My business partner Chris gave it to me, and I was like, okay, this is the one watch I have that has sentimental value. And of course, I send it in to get serviced, and then COVID hits, and
Did it get
the
lost?
well, no, the manufacturer was just like, hey, because they're in Switzerland, they had like
Is it
their
Rolex?
social.
Was it a Rolex? A fancy Rolex?
I mean, it was fancy. It is a Rolex, so it's not a cheap
It's
Rolex,
Rolex.
but or
Yeah.
not. There are no cheap Rolexes probably, but it was it was older and it was anyways, it meant something to me. But Rolex was
Right.
like, hey, because of COVID, we're just like 100% closed indefinitely, and I'm like, yeah, but how do I get my watch back?
Right.
And
Right.
they literally were just like, hey, we don't know when you'll see it again. It'll be one day. But it was
You're
there
like,
for
no.
11 months.
Oh my God. Oh my.
And I was like kind of sweating. I didn't even tell. I don't know if Chris has even heard this story. I've never even told him because I was like, he's gonna see me on a Zoom call not wearing it, and I don't want to tell him that like I
I
don't
sent it off to
really.
Rolex and I don't
Yeah,
know
and
when I'm going to
and
get it back.
like oh man, it was like pretty nerve wracking, and I was like, this is my luck in life, right? Where it's like everything will be fine, but it's gonna be very anxious for a little bit.
Well,
It was
so Chris, we're almost out of time. Just one last question, or like
yeah,
maybe
do
two,
it.
maybe two.
Whatever you need.
Um, if you had to give advice to another scale up founder or maybe a startup founder, entrepreneur, what's like the biggest advice you'd give them?
Oof.
That if somebody had told you, you're like, I wish somebody would have told me this.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's a little bit hard to know without knowing exactly what they're doing and who they
Mhm.
are and that sort of stuff. My sort of like overarching advice to folks is to figure out how close to zero they can get as a human. Like,
Mm,
how cheaply can you live? Like, there are going to be moments where your company needs you as the founder, CEO, whatever your title is, to
yeah.
sacrifice because you're the only person that can do that for the company. There's going to be a moment where maybe you don't get that funding or you don't have that partnership where
Yeah.
like if you don't find the money or you don't find the workload or whatever it is, like there's no other option out there.
Mm,
So for me, thankfully, that was part of my journey of quitting my job, was doing the math of like, how can I pare my life down? How can I save and do some things so that
mm,
I gave myself the most opportunity for success? Where it was like, all right, and we didn't really dig into this, but when I finally left Michelin, it was the like, all right, once I save this amount of money and do these things, like you had a big spreadsheet, it's like, I'm going to quit and I'm going to start my own thing.
right.
And then right before I did that, I got offered a really cool job and was like, oh shit, well, I'll just do that for a while. And it was great, not complaining.
Sure.
But that freedom, I was like, I finally felt the freedom to go for it, right? Like if I go out and I quit my job and I try my damnedest and I spend 6 months and I burn all this money, at least I know I tried and I
Right.
planned for it. Um, you know, I've had a lot of friends that are just like, oh, I'm going to go start a company or I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to do whatever. And I don't really have a plan. Back sort of to my earlier comment, like just make the decisions and plan before you get there. Like once you're burnt out, you're too tired to make intelligent decisions. Once you're out of money, you're not making intelligent decisions.
You start getting in panic, desperation mode. Right?
Yeah. So like, my accountant has the like, hey, when we hit these mile markers, here's the conversations we have. Like whether we're doing good or poorly, force me to answer to these things because we need to make a decision before we hit zero. Once we've hit zero, we've already failed. There's not a decision to be made, really.
Right.
So yeah, I think think through like what happens if it goes phenomenally well, but what happens if it goes terribly? And odds are neither of those will happen. It'll be somewhere in the middle. But for me,
you never know.
You never know. But being prepared for those two things, I at least know the delta, right? Like here's the upside of my business. Here's the addressable market. Here's the things. Here's the shit. I invested $100,000 in this company and it never went anywhere and I lost it. And that's terrible. It's a lot of money.
Right.
But here's my backup plan and here's like why that makes sense or here's what we're going to do or that kind of thing. That at least helps me sleep at night. And I feel like it gives me the confidence to build teams and hire people and tell them like, listen, worst case scenario, there's an exit plan. And there's never a day that you're going to show up to work where there's just a note on the door. I hope. I mean, I don't know why that would happen, but like we have an exit plan. Worst case scenario, we've said before, like we want to always be able to give an employee a couple of months severance, whether they choose to leave or whether we think it's not a good fit. We don't want to put people in a situation where they have to work a job that they hate or they're not good at because they just have to pay their bills. And we don't want to feel the pressure to keep you around just because we know you have to pay your bills. So like, cool, here's some money. And like, we hate it, but like, at least you have time. At least you have opportunities.
So we're out of time. I'm always amazed at how fast these conversations go.
You got to just make them longer.
I know.
Joe Rogan, just do 4 hours of this.
Keep going. We just keep talking all afternoon. I have to go get my bourbon downstairs. So thank you for hanging out. But where can people reach you? Where do you want people to connect with you?
Oh, man. Yeah,
what company do you want them to connect with?
You can connect with any of them. I mean, you can find me on Twitter. My handle's my name. It's just Chris Merritt. My personal website is chrismerritt.cc. And there's a link to my other companies, atlaslocal.com, faculty.com, greenvillegrok.com, whatever thing I start tomorrow. Who knows?
And you're pretty active on Twitter, right?
I used to be. I mean, I don't know. That's a whole nother rant and diatribe. The internet's gotten weird. I'm available.
That's an aggressive platform. That's why I tell people. They're like, I need to get in Twitter more. I'm like, get ready.
Yeah.
It's an angry platform.
I posted like just one simple question about a very simple thing, and I got like 37 messages that were like, I'm just like, okay.
I did the same thing. I posted something around like tokenism and media because I'm a media nerd, and I got flooded with, all sorts of names.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Luckily, we're doing a lot of great things for Twitter now. Like, let's just get rid of the moderation teams, and like we don't need to monitor hate speech. Or who cares?
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you for being on with us. And are you drinking? Are you taking a shot of your whiskey now?
Well, this is actually
what is it?
It's a rum, actually.
Ooh, what is it?
It's a plantation rum, which is the dudes and dudettes over at Swordfish Cocktail Club here in town are big fans of them. And I've historically been a really big bourbon and whiskey person, but that stuff just got so expensive.
Yeah, we're a collector. I'm a collector of bourbon.
See, I want to be a collector.
If you come over here, there's like 50 or 60 bottles here, and we've got about another, I don't know, 50 or 60 at the house.
Oh, nice. All right, we'll have to have that conversation then. Yeah, this is all my booze back here, but the top shelf's bourbon. The one below that's rum. But rum is more.
Is rum one of yours? So gin is my second. I've been sampling kind of the craft gin. And so that's been our next kind of collectible after, because I feel like we've sampled and we have almost every bourbon under the sun. And so now it's like, let's get into tequila and gins.
Yeah. All right. We'll have to invite you to my podcast that I haven't started, but I have an idea for it. But it's going to be Drunk Greenville History.
Oh, I love it. There's some good ones. because
It's
of
gonna
the
be great.
moonshine and all that up
Yeah.
in the air. You know about all the moonshine history, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
my
Okay.
family's born and raised from the
I was like,
South, so like we're not going anywhere.
yeah. So my family's from Kentucky, so that's why
Oh,
we're
right.
like they were tobacco farmers all up and down Louisville,
Okay.
Lexington
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
area. So yeah,
I know you're like, oh, we
farms
got.
are right by the all the distilleries.
Yeah, I'm actually a pretty big tobacco person. I don't know if you can see in the video, but these are all pipes. So
Ooh, nice. Yeah, I've got like old tobacco baskets and stuff from the farms, and yeah, I don't have any of that. Like none of them like had pipes. My dad had pipes, but those are all who knows where they went. But yeah, we have
Yeah.
more of like the farm
Yeah.
the farm equipment.
Yeah, I can the agricultural side of things. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, thanks for hanging out, and
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
for everyone listening or watching live, thanks, Kevin. If you're still listening to us, I'm sure he's like checked out. He has no attention span. Um, but you can, this podcast will be published this coming Sunday and available on all your favorite podcast platforms. So subscribe to Hello Chaos, like, comment, and share. This is great content. It helps us build a more connected entrepreneurial community. Hello Chaos is, again, one of the many resources brought to you by Orange Whip. That's WIP. And Orange Whip is a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities. We're a one-stop content hub for a founder. So we're part storyteller, part how-to guide, and local navigator with a filterable resource directory, a curated events calendar, and a social chatter wall. We're currently in 3 areas in South Carolina, the upstate, Midlands, and the Low Country, with goals to expand in 30 markets in 5 years. This month's edition is exploring LGBTQ plus founders and their perspectives. So go to orangewhip.com and explore the stories of queer founders and their journeys across these regions in South Carolina. Next month, our edition topic will be on the CEO mindset and the challenges of shifting from working in the business to working on the business. And we've got some great founders that we're featuring in those 3 regions. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or featured in one of our online editions, head over to orangewhip.com and fill out one of the forms. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe to Orange Whip Weekly Whip newsletter. We are ad supported through sponsored native content. Our content is free, accessible, and inclusive. I also want to thank our episode sponsor, the Upstate LGBT Chamber. As the first and only LGBT plus chamber of commerce in the state of South Carolina, the Upstate LGBT Chamber are LGBT plus professionals and allies who understand that diversity, equality, and economic empowerment are vital for any healthy community. From creating connections and professional development opportunities to providing resources and advocacy, the Upstate LGBT Plus Chamber is here to support you and a more inclusive and diverse upstate business community. For more information, go to their website at upstatelgbt.org. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor of Orange Whip, just email us at hello@orangewhip.com. Y'all, thank you for tuning in to Hello Chaos. It's where aha meets oh shit. And again, I'm your host, Jennifer Sutton. We'll see you again next week. Bye, y'all. Thanks, Chris.